So we're going to start with some simple bits. We're going to start with how to back up GSE, how to move it between computers. For those guys that are multi-boxes, this is your bread and butter. This is like you build all your macros on one thing and then move it between accounts. So if I come... so I'm going to just drag in some windows over the top here. So wherever you've got your WoW folder, in my case it's D Drive Games World of Warcraft, this will be in a different place for wherever you've installed it. But underneath this there's a couple of folders. There's, like in my case, I've got a beta, I've got a classic beta, a PTR, a retail. These folders here, these are the different game clients. So each of these has an interface folder and a WTF folder. So when you're installing a mod, it goes into interface, add-ons. So like the GSE folders are sitting there. Mine, I've got these little arrows on them because I've got it pointing to my dev code. In your case, you won't have the little arrows, it'll just look like everything else. But these files here, these are the actual game files themselves. So like these are the bits that make the stuff. But your data is not stored here. So if we come back to that retail folder, you got WTF, you got account. Like in my case, my account name is Dracon. In your case, your account name will be whatever they are. Inside of this, you've then got a bunch of realm folders and a save variables one. The GSE one is in this saved variables file, and it consists of two files, a GSE and a GSE.lua.back. These two files here are what happens. So when you start the game, like when you literally start up WoW, it reads everything that is in this GSE.lua file. You do your stuff, you do your changes, you do everything that happens. As you exit the game and you shut down WoW, it turns around and copies this GSE.lua file to this GSE.lua.back, and then it rewrites a new one. So if you see at the moment I've got timestamps of 9:55 and 9:14. If I exit the game, right, you'll see my GSE.lua back file has changed to 9:55. My GSE.lua file has changed to 11:08 AM. Because what it did is it copied that file to there, and then it turned around and wrote a new one of these. So what that means is in that gap between when I start the game and when I finish the game, nothing is actually written to your hard disk until you actually exit WoW. So what you've got is like, if you do a reload, that file's not going to save. What will happen when you do a reload is this file won't get written, that won't have changed, it'll just continue back to when you logged in. So some people are getting problems where they log in, they do something, they do a reload, it disappears. Right? So if I go GSE, let's take this macro, Letechi's Blood AIO, go edit, we'll go delete. Yep, I want to delete it. Great. If I go reload, that macro should now reappear. Or Blizzard's turned around and actually fixed it on this release and changed it. It was the Blood one, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and Blizzard's changed it. Fantastic. Yeah, Blizzard's fantastic. So what have they changed? They've turned around and changed this stuff so that actually when you do a reload, it writes to the file now. That is both good news and bad news. So the good news is that I need to now figure out what to do if you delete something and you haven't actually planned it. Bad news is this is all changed, and the good news is, okay. Alright, so ignore everything that I've just written. So what happens is when you do a reload, it turns around and copies this file to there and writes it. But if we look at this GSE.back file, right, and I drag this across, so I've got all of the GSE options. As I come down, alright, so GSE storage, this has literally got all of the macros. Right, they're all stored in the same bits that we put on the website now. Right, but there's that macro that we lost. So Lutechi's all-in-one one is there. And if I go to the Lua file, right, so if I go GSE.lua compared to GSE.lua.back, and I keep looking, so I've got the Sam Lutechi blood all in one, Sam blood, but I don't have this one that we deleted. So to get that back, it's very simple. All I need to do is take this file, rename it to something, take this file here, put that back, and then when I do a reload, I still don't have his macro back. Okay, I'm just going to do this manually. Put that into there. Restart WoW. There's Lutechi's blood, AIO, all in one. Right, so it does work. But, so if I take this file, this GSE.lua file, I take it completely out. I can copy it somewhere, so like I can copy it straight to my desktop. If I can figure out how to show my desktop. So I can have that file just sitting there, ticking away. In case of emergency or in case of a rainy day, I just come back to the save variables folder, retail, WTF account, my account name, save variables, GSE Lua file. All I got to do is exit the game, put the file back, log back in, and I'm away. If I need to change computers or I need to transfer computers, all I need is that GSE Lua file, transfer it across to my other computer, put it in, boom, and I'm done. Does that make sense? Does that make sense about like how to back up GSE? I'm looking towards the commentsy type bits. You know, anybody still awake? Anybody still here?
Makes sense to me, mate.
Awesome. Yeah, the body for the memory evades you. All right, so that's it. So there's been a thing that's popped up on the forums. If I find my WLM or a browser folder or something. Right, this is the one that's popped up recently. Is some people get an error message saying they're unable to import, and they get an error message about line 216 of storage, a nil value. For other people, they don't get an error message at all. So trying to sort out what's actually occurring here, and we've noticed a couple of things that happen. Yeah. So what I've got is, if I go back to, if I bring up some source code of GSE, this will probably make a little bit more sense. I'm sorry that this is going to get super technical, but inside of GSE, there's these two tables. Right, one's called GSE storage, and one's called GSE library. When you add a macro, the big long string of text goes into this thing called GSE storage. It's stored there. And that's the bit that, if we go back to this notepad file, and I scroll up a bit, scroll up a fair bit, scroll up even more. Right, you've got this thing, GSE storage, and it's got Sam Fury and the bits. The way that is actually broken up is that you've got a table that consists of, I've got an object called storage. Inside of that, this bit here, get current class ID. This is a number from 1 to 12. And then I've got nothing in it, empty blank space. So if I turn around and go to the sample macros, what you then have is a very simplified version of this. Is I've got a class of 1, which is warriors, 1 macro there. Class of 2 paladin, I've got 3 macros, 1, 2, 3. So this is what's being stored in that GSE storage. But when you turn around and actually act on this, GSE storage turns around and creates a temporary thing called GSE library, and it takes this big long gobbledygook string, runs it through all of the processes that turns it into an object that can be executed. And it gets placed into this GSE library. So when it turns around and actually, like, you get out of combat and it updates your sequences and whatever else, what it looks for is it basically goes to this running version, this GSE library version, and says reset the macro based off what's in GSE library. Now what can happen is that as GSE runs, this GSE library part can get corrupted. So the big change that we put through for this version 2.6 is that we've divorced the storage from your day-to-day operation. We've split these two bits in half. But what can happen if I go to storage line 216 is that we can get to a spot here where this is the import function. It comes in, okay, figures out some stuff, right? It takes the sequence and it stores it in the library. It then takes a copy of it and it stores it in the storage part. So you've done your save, you've done your bit. Okay, update the working copy, save the final copy. Where it's crashing is it's crashing here because either the sequence name or the actual sequence that's coming in has gotten corrupted along the way. And so that line 216, this line used to be here. So I've now got 2 other error messages, so it should trigger that either the sequence name or the actual content of the sequence is the bit that's getting corrupted before it gets here, and it'll spit it out. So I'm waiting for some error messages to pop up from people so I can actually figure out which one of those 2 is broken. But what you can do in the interim is this, right? Let me take a class that I don't have any macros on that I'm worried about. Where's a monk? When I say I don't worry about it, it's just literally I haven't been leveling it, I haven't been building macros for it recently, so... Okay, so
Timothy,
I've got
can I ask a quick question while you're sorting for you?
Yeah. Ask away, mate.
So, if I go into that Lua file... So if I go into that Lua file and delete all the old macros that I don't want...
And save it?
Will that actually, like, through... that's quicker than doing it in-game, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and save it.
Yeah, it is quicker than doing it through in-game. There is some risk, though. So what you want to delete is, see where I've got this left bracket that says Sam Fury? You want to delete through to the comma. Alright, so if you miss the comma, you'll break the thing. If you turn around and miss the quote and the quote, so like there'll be a beginning quote, a close quote, a comma, there'll be like that, you need that whole chunk. And go, boom, that's it, deleted out of that particular one. Right, so I've got this guy that's got no macros whatsoever, and I've got the lib Q-tip problem because I've got a mod that hasn't updated lib Q-tip. So let's go fix that for a sec. So let's just go disable all. So what I've got none here. What's happening for some people is they go new, they create something, they go save, and instead of getting the message, new sequences updated, and it coming in here, it's just coming in and it's just totally blank. So they've hit save, and it's just come back like that with nothing in there. What we've found, what some people have actually figured out how to do, is that you can reset. If you go back to these buckets, so we've got this bucket here of, so that bucket of like retail sample macros 3, that hunter bucket, we can reset just that bucket without deleting everything else out of the file. The way we do that is we go, so show spec, current spec is 10, right? So we're Windwalker, which is 269, but there's an alternative spec class ID of 10. And we can turn around and do it a complicated way, or we can do it an easy way. And if I go back to Discord, I've put the easy way in there earlier. Where is it? And people have been typing too much stuff on Discord, I can't find anything.
Are you watching Treadstone?
Treadstone? What's Treadstone? Okay, this command here, GSE force clean, what this will do is it'll reset the bucket of the current character class you're on. Right, so if I just make a sequence, alright, so I've got a sequence in there. I run GS force clean. Yeah, my letters aren't working. That's impressive. Alright, let's see if Synapse is broken. Yes, Synapse was broken. So I've run that thing to clear the sequences. It's gone through and gone, yep, we've deleted these macros ones. It's cleaned out everything in that spot and it's put it back to scratch. So I can go from here, I can go to plugins, load the samples. Immediately I've got the sample macro that we've included with GSE back. And that seems to be working for some people. Just that literal bit of the GS force clean. So I'll put that into the chat here. So that GS force clean, what it does, the effective bit of, is if you'd gone to the Lua file and you found all of the warrior macros and went boom, delete in one big hit. But it does it without wiping out your other classes. So some people have found that they can save on their hunter, but they can't save on their druid, or they can save on their druid, but they can't save on something else. So that's a way of getting around those kind of bits and pieces. But essentially the key is, if you update this file, this gse.lua file, and you put it away somewhere, doesn't matter what happens in-game, you've got a place to come back to, you've got a place to fall back to. So, Blade, does that answer your question about the people that can't import and what to try? Okay, In your case, if you've got it and it's here, you can always click on the macro and go export and keep that part. Copy that, notepad out, do your bits, pieces, figure out whatever's gone in the game, come back, put it back in. But hopefully that gives you some stuff to try. Yeah. If that bucket, for want of a better way of describing it, if, like number 12, if that bucket, like the number 12 bucket, has been broken, nothing that you save into that bucket will work. But that force clean will reset that bucket for just that one class. So it'll do it for just Windwalker Monks, but it won't do it for every other one. Or in your case, it'll do it for just Demon Hunters, but it won't do it for... and wipe out all your other macros. But if you're getting an error message, or you're actually getting some bits about why it's breaking beyond that initial line, come across to GitHub. There's a link here on the GitHub page. We've collected some information. We've narrowed it down to a spot, but I just need a little bit more info as to exactly what somebody's trying to import when they get this error. Because this bit, message, attempting to index field, blah, that's useful. That tells me a problem happened at a point. But without the, I was trying to import this, I can't really tell how to recreate what people are trying to do.